I would like to think sometimes the flow of something other is outside the world. When reached inside, the inscription turned towards vile entropy, earned thermodynamics, or nuclear warfare with pretense for exhibition, where honor is your fare, fare is costly, where is awesome, for bleeding hearts are there concerned with language inside what is burned. You can see a fire outside putting nice water to its touch. It comes when it means what it saw, for its bleeding heart is concerned with the beauty of entropy. Inside the world it turns and re-yearns with what it started to desire. Inside the curse of the fire that was itself not desired, until it saw that not being desired was the fortune of its yearning towards something burning again, not itself, but something outside in the world to take a pretense for its curse, to diffuse its earnings for whatever it saw as beautifully endowed. For when stylistic is approached, geographical landscapes make a map of the world. You can see what goes in and out, what comes from one country to the world and ships out. It's the process of the world as such. When you see the imports and exports of the business it touches, so the bankers come in for what the algorithms concern themselves with actuarial mathematics, because it's faster to the server. It's because sometimes the words go to 1.6, 1.5, 1.2. This is the normal and regular speed. Apparently 200 words a minute is what it sees. But when it takes a process forward, it takes account of all the server search. So it searches in the outside words inside coming for what it brings. It sees them as a letter serve to the service it burns inside its yearning. Again it comes outside to return to itself as a burning server, searching surrogates inside your business. Come inside with the child rides to see inside the beautiful world something different than what was not definable, because of its implication inside the world where what it is not yours. So it's beautiful to see outside the world that entropy yearns to see, because it modulates what it enters into as a surrogate to the world. It searches for inside these words, just repeating the SSS of signification is deconstructed and dissuaded for what it touches another word on it, and then breaks its chain to the syntactic outside inside reign. It gets tougher for the one for itself. It starts wherever it leads. It doesn't matter. It's hell. It's hell as other people like Sartre for the nothingness inside the infinite reaching. But the measure of the components here have to be argumented for something outside that has to be returned. It's like a language where the physics yearns for something burning, like desire in the Shakespearean legends of Arthurian sections, when the knowledge of Noah's Ark comes to with the precision of God's choice and viewed in the cultures of man as such. It saw the animals as a study to rut. Which animal next could come? The lion, the tiger, the hyena, the buffalo, the elephant, the rhinoceros, the giraffe, the brachiosaurus, the T-Rex, the velociraptors, all these animals inside coming towards a phylogenetic plant-based search inside Wodinsla's and depends on itself for oxygen it feeds into the world. It takes carbon dioxide and diffuses it into what it takes into its plants as nutrients. It's so fortunate to see that being right is not the right seeing. You can be wrong and start from there. It's better to challenge what you're bearing inside. The words are now decoding with words endowed with imbued, owning something other than what was seeking, what was there to believe in. It's just the free association, like anything informal, like informal education. The reference, you see, it comes out to what it sees. It's like a Wikipedia search for the night of seeking something, for believing that's right and seeking it better and closer, something wetter and owned for with water now comes in as an image for what it flows and seeks, and it's not the seeing that's any better than what it believes in, because its beauty is seeking endlessly, believing, like the Eric Hoffer tale of some stupid man who believed in hell, like Sartre, except with more dignity. He believed in something unique, and that was his second topic. If the Freudian social came before it installed the word of God, it was an image it had to draw. So the tracing paper was where it didn't even exist anymore. That's what I wanted to share. Tracing paper is what I need. I don't know where to acquire such seeking, so there's a lot to speak of in terms of myself, but that's not the most important, because the outside is where the arguments stand to bear logic, like the science it argues with, except outside the affect, it is an effect of its speech, so you can challenge every degree of it until it seeks something other than what it narcissistically hides, and dissuading the other to compel it, so that inside it yearns for something, yelling, but yelling, yes, yelling west, yelling something earned, yelling something burning, yelling something serving, yelling something being, yelling something seeing, yelling, yeah, yelling in the street so many people can be scared for the loudness inside, the burning. I'm trying to be something that I yearn to be seen as when I believe in what I see. When I go back to the world, I see something seeing me. But it's okay to see me, because I'm not something to bleed in. I'm something sorrow-filled and weakness. Challenges what the physiological stance still thrives to enhance, because it knows what it has to learn, because it knows what it has to serve, because inside the technique there's a science, and its medicine is pure. It's not like the perfection inside is anything limited, because it cannot perfect itself inside its spirit. It's like a spirit on a hanger when it goes to what the clothes of shirts it can handle. How many shirts can fit in a closet? How many closets can fit in a shirt? What goes to the shirts that see the things inside it, burning every last inch of it, so that nothing resides unsound in principle, but belittled in fury, for what it speaks of is anything curious as some language inside what it continues to hide, but there's no point denying that what it analyzes is better than what it hides for, without saying anything it produces. So when it prefers something to the other, it installs its linguistic server like an informatic inscription, tenuous and encompassing all the weakness and the beauty of sanctity. For what we know now is like the prophet's delirium inside a handle of whatever it knows. It breaches the content of the entering core. It knows death, it plays with it, it loves it for what it seeks. It knows in the symbolic the inscription of its community. So forth is then a code for your horrors, where the riding of the fear is something inside that's perhaps a little weird, especially when it comes to the sanctity of the sacrament, the sacrilegious offering for the passage of the oracles, not seen as the Eleusinian mysteries that base inside the ecstatic theogony of theologians' power and sanctity for what they believe as value is sacrilegious to them, but not to us. In community and communication exhibits exaggerating sickness. It's not that its waves are any different than what you can be, but it's like poem, and it goes off from the riding ocean of seeing, sight, optics, windows, mirrors, reflection, specks, switched up and waxed of all the tiny little beings inside what it returns to keeping. So it's like an empty speech that has to be filled of why it comes there, to the context it heals. It knows back in its words what it goes back on and serves, because it has to return on what it used to say and make it less concerning to the witness of what its sight sees, so that it can climb inside the horror of being without having to do what it seeks to imbue in the psychic apparatus that poisons our youth. The pathologies of man are civilized, based inside the discontent that their witness in the society exhibits from the identity of the identical inside the identification with its external service for what we believe is the profit of the communion and the excess gathered and sanctified in a function to gather what the variables have to be worked on at some later point when the energy returns to what yearning concerns itself for, when importance communicates what first of all has its basis. It's not a master, it's not an analyst, it's not even a discourse for any handsome bliss of what letting go of a universe of discourse allows for the world, where outside of Lacan there is everything, but outside of the unconscious there is something more to concern yourself with when truth comes down to endow itself as witness. What will it say? What can it do? What does it know about the world that suffers inside youth? It goes back to the pathologies. It endows itself with uniqueness that's not even stupid, because it is stupid. Fecal matter as a sense of arbitrary negredo for what it sanctifies and halos, but it's not so much the smell that the smell itself compels for when it exhibits something other. It doesn't need what it sells. It sells for what it knows. It feels for what it grows. It doesn't matter what it sells, because it has an inventory like every other person in the world. It has a community, it has a totality, it has an ensemble of states that fix its reality. It's like a letter left inside with the whole world inside now works for eyes that seek what honesty competes with when it simplifies the entanglement. It dispels itself of wranglings when it's so compact and furiously comfortable. It's like embraced by the end of suffering, but it knows more than suffering to seek for poems, poems, poems. I am when I bleed. I am something else, I am something other. I am a poem of something, brothers. You know what the community does to masonry when it impels the 33rd degree to be the Jesus basis symbolic creed? It is like a gospel of Gnostic fortune for the compellers of suffering, where dispelling youth of pathological symptomatic crudeness is the uniqueness that we need to sell out so that it makes itself what it gathers to compel you back to seek inside stronger, stronger, stronger weakness, stronger, stronger, stronger face. Impel what you now disgrace. You know that discourse is a world when youth is impelled with a sword. It goes back to the third of states when it sees finally what it can embrace. Nothing really endows itself with madness more than the feeling of comfort in the degrees of sadness, where the effort is what impels the world to do something other than its curse ensures, so that the hysteric is not even compelled to do anything other than what it is endowed for in the world, to study itself. Science is its sanctity, science is its fortune bleeding, science is the work it needs, 3 years, 4 years, 5 and 6. Fortune tellers 100K in bliss plus fortune. Sanctify something there to attain a basis of 100,000 is not such an elaborate shame to be 100K when a million comes and 100 more saved. Shade of millions layered. Money inside comfort. Saying that money is shared. Saying that Roth children are the war inside what compels every single dynamic inside the countries to unify. The information that money and wealth endows for the fortune of the one inside. What the aim is now the question. Where do they have their interests and how are they formed in aim as witness? What does it matter to compel the balancing? When one state impresses the end of an affliction for sharing with this instantiation cells, it is not a measure of something other than what it digs at. It may fail, it may see that, it may wonder what is weaning off, what is weaning soft, what is coming back, what is bearing fact. It knows now that what it is prescribed is sake of functionality embraced. It can just come back to this word said and now remember what was read inside its own words now, inscribed from a transcription of a center ride. It can make a poem anywhere, it can embrace what it compels to contract. It should slow down what it shares, but it needs to make more sharing viable. It needs to be the leading core of what is reliable. It needs to be the master of, the one that masters his self. Realms of duality, realms of triplicity, ties of 4 discourses plus 1 in the center of its function, the organ of its vehicle, the core of what its noyo is, to the being of, well, I need to read. I remember what I used to say at some point, then it was complaining, but now it sees the shores of motherhood, the imaginary world that the bliss impels as a function to react inside what it yells for, need to be steady, 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 weaning to the fortune of what production breeds. To speaking endlessly. Speaking of 8 hours, speaking of 4 hours to give, speaking of 3 hours and one in return, and that is the gain of the fang that bleeds and ties in seeking what the 3D dimension of a library now could maybe see in a graph of what was created on the 3D sites that are public domain to share, and then perhaps take a Photoshop tool and erase what can just take the names off the books and inscribe the new ones as it should. Then perhaps even add new ones, but the books I have, or the books on paper, the books that I had in libraries, the books that I want to return to, the books that impel my life and show the world what I am and walk out where it shares something else to the plan. So it is at the schools or outside at the entrance you use the publicity stunt of La Campus Skinnerist and share there with a link to PayPal and a little bucket inside with a light blue color and a dove and many flowers and birds. What types of birds have a fortune? The quickest are always the first to see what the body inside compels to reason. It is because their quickness is like lightning fast. This use of the function inside enhance. The world gains, it reaches towards its aim. It sanctifies every element of its sentence and feels inside what it could have mentioned, but the sentence when it speaks is almost dissolute to its own reality. The sentence compels itself to attain what the inside elements, letters, make words inside bigger forms, inside the letters, inside an ensemble for the generation of the world. I can go on forever, but it's not the point. Inside what it cuts now to make a void. The void is beautiful, the world is there. Yitzrata, I bet you shit. Hair, girl. Hair, steady. Inside decisions, inscribed in words. Do I really want what I'm aiming for? Of course I need to get stronger to be with the BCAAs and the structure or healing what it needs to take, healing what it needs to make, healing what it needs to buy. Very cheap food, but very expensive. Wise. Food porn is like the witness of the cultures inside, the taste of bizarre foods, perhaps. Yeah, the guy who goes all across the world and eats a bunch of bizarre shit. That would perhaps be the starting point of the ecstasy. Feeling weird, feeling disgusted, feeling like you can eat anything to offer what the body then endows inside what it compels itself to arrange for. It needs a substance to aim its course. Steady ship is there, aimed and defended and comforting in what it knows, that the world is there like a dream that makes an image that it escapes when it bears the truth of its element, that then diffuses the dissolution of what constitutes itself. Whether it has a name, whether it doesn't, it is its own name, it is its own family, it is its own generation. It could be a politician, it could be a failure to compete with political facts. It could be the instance of what comes out of that reality when it compels its reason outside to react to what it knows to be endowing, for what it feels to be beautifully implicated in its reality. It loves, it shares, it loves, it gives, it bears, it participates, it doesn't, it sees what it knows, it goes outside to compete with its yours. You see, it comes back to what it reacts with when it embraces, contains, and sanctifies, and what it breaks out of, no more to be broken out of the infinite shouting of the comfort in a place like a natural chalet. You come there, the muses are scared of what is sharing, but it knows so beautifully comforting together. It bears the reality of what it opens to the world as a failed fact that constitutes the sword that comes in, the sword that embraces, the sword that gives an open door to the shaking fear, shaking here, there, for one, for none, for everyone, for there, for whatever it comes. It needs a support outside to depend on, but it cannot disdain what it dispels and makes the offering of the bird what it negates, and the negation of this fact is a similar foreclosure of the containing that contains no containment of what it compels itself to dispel. It gives to the other what it cannot make itself. It does not know where it bees to wheeze, for wherever it sees whatever it conceives. It doesn't really matter. Speech goes on forever. Speech goes on and never. Speech goes on beyond the point where reality breaks with its container and sells its contestation. I contest what I first dispelled, but I believe stronger in it to be selling body as force of work, selling body as creator of force, selling body as compelled to work for the strongest reasons that support the fact of work inside the world, where the world itself is scared to yours, for what Lin Bevere makes Seminar 24, reaching for the unary trait inside this discourse of the elements, determinant, subject, object, a bunch of scenarios where they all compel themselves to put together what they fear. It's not so scary, but its aggression is compelled to reason for a little sign of rusing science of logic instead of turning on useless concepts. It turns around, it deflects itself, it goes outside what it yells to sell. It sells itself as pure endowed, but it has no uniqueness in its wealth. The unary trait is something outside, but it takes it point by point with the letter and the word and the ensemble of what the word contains in the sentence that it works with. The syntax then takes the semantic as a style that operates on it with many wiles, but you see, for the communication, finally it tells you what it is based in, so you have all the structures of what the message is encoded and to displace with the beauty of the power of the word to give something to the other inside its soaring heart, because its opposite is not itself opposite at all. It has the support, it sees itself as the support in the world it offers, so it knows what it endows its fantasy with without endowing what it needs from the fantasy to see anything as support. It's here, not a cause of the world. You cannot make this a cause of your research. Now, objectively, letting go. Objectality coming together to represent one thing, the unary trait. What is the unary trait? What is my interest in seeking it so inflamed? Because it takes empty speech. It takes the unary trait of what the word imbues in the image outside, what it escapes to see, because the word is worse than what it competes for four discourses that scare itself outside. The three that writes its one word. The word is on paper, the word is the trace, the word is what makes the symptom implicated in reality in some way. So finding what it contains in the other no need, because it finds what it reads as a symptomatic outside of reason. It reasons with itself to know what it possesses only if it allows itself the sentence structure, sentence core, sentence outside empty words, 3 words between added to support the connectors of symbolic castration after the fact, retroactively implicated in the condensation of the support of the Trinity, where the word now comes through philosophical divinity. Seminar 17 implicates the power of the center capitalist discourse as the object A that orients all other 4 discourses, turning around itself as the unary trait again works its way through the voice that jouissance supports outside of the word, where the community is yours, but it's not that much of a delusion if you let go of the pain. It's just the implication of the history that you reigned, not the one that you knew that you could have, because you knew you couldn't have what you didn't embrace. So you needed to see what you embraced inside, deeper what inside you had to see between your weakness and the leaving pain of life, because you are what you love, you are what you strive for. In the striving, you are implicated in some support of beauty so that it endows itself with diffusion. The beauty that it needs has no image now, because the fantasy supports what it is so proud. Whether it is or it isn't, it doesn't matter for itself, because it is so easy to break out. Break out of what? Break out of love, break into it, break into the body that supports its uniqueness. It's there, it's there, it's there, so good. It's there, it's there, it's there, so yo. I speak so solidly to embrace what solidly tells. Yeah, I know to be something outside you is leaving them when fear compels the adequation of the sentence, yelling, yes, I got it, yes, I know, yes, it implies what I fear, and so I will live what I fear, I will live what I don't, I will live how inside I love myself. So inside what somatic sentences comply, the rent inside the pension plan, you need to offer many condensations raw for Patreon. What would be the idea here would be the 100-turn replication of a single element and its ensemble when attained at that point when the diversity implies the capitalist outside surplus, seeking the outside for what supports the sentence of the entire structure when relieved to me it seems no other could say. But for I fear could come today. I can impel some brash opinion. I can sell you what love writing would take a pencil for. You need to take a pencil. You need to take it to someone and try to sell it. You need to try to sell it between $5 to $15. If you can sell it for more, that is your all. You need to make the feeling of the pencil to the one you sell immediately mean what it impels, so that when you introduce the thing itself, it's already like the desire is impossible to compel itself. What does it compel itself for? It implicates itself inside yours. If one is not there to soar, sore heart bleeds inside, of course. Language then implicates the beauty of what it explicates outside to share and see. Closed eyes are not so paranoid for the identification with yours as mine. And so, what is a failure? What is a dominant opinion capable of? Why should any opinion give one fortune to sentence others to the dominion of their fears, or sentence compel the opposite for what their proof is hearing? It's the proof itself that needs to be endowed inside what it inscribes as the end of analysis, as fiction, when it implicates the fiction as the story of truth. Science fiction is what the symptom uses. You need to see the symptom, you need to analyze it. You need to start with the body and then fraction it. The body impresses a certain feeling. The body endows the word to reason. Reason uses outside what it uses. So the reason itself is feeling the end of its purity, puny, your degree. So what does it reach out for? What does it say? What does it imply inside the end of its saying? Could it be something that it could be something that it could be other? It is fortunate for what it is straightforward for inside what it paranoids itself no more. So yours could be what it could see when it doesn't matter what you believe, because what you believe is what you saw for what you wanted inside, yawning for not what you offer, not what you implicate. It's just a world of reason and raw surfaces of accuracy, lost science in imp of perversity. Science is the imp of perversity, the delusion of the capitalist discourse that knows itself as a science before it deludes the world outside of its searching, so that the outside makes it more believable that the suffering is needing for more conceivable things like linguists sanction words for what inside the unconscious burns. You see, it comes out, it makes it the point of Moses that I am, and it implicates the Hindu breaking out of what it is no longer the point for virtue, but virtue was never really based here. In fact, it was only seen as a continuity and a circularity and a way to make the voice the center of reality. It It's in the Kandalya Upanishads, the sentence, the breath, the way of truth, the way that after this one little page, the words in pew, it follows, it sanctions, it implicates what it lengthens, it goes through every crevice of itself, but it needs to do so, have the courage of its melting soft, entering into something yours, the end, of course. The beginning, indeterminateness, determining its outside as the letter that has to start, it always has to reference to something else, to be something at all that identification calls.